Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington. And I am very excited today to be joined by a fellow podcaster, a beauty expert. Probably don't need much of an introduction, just given your kind of wealth of knowledge and time in the industry. But I'm here with Anne Timss. She's a makeup artist and she's awesome. And
Thanks.
So why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hey, thanks, Reed. Thanks for having me on. My name is Anne Timss. I personally live in Everett. Our studio is in Shoreline, Washington. So I'm kind of all over the place. I have been a makeup artist for almost 25 years. And it's been a long journey, but I do lots of weddings. I specialize in adventure elopements. I do a lot of corporate commercial work. Always, find me on set at Microsoft or some random job of some sort, but that's kind of the gist of it. That's what I do.
And I mean, so that's the thing. So we finally worked together for the first time this year after, and a couple of times, in fact. Yeah. But because, I just seen you post everywhere, forever, just, good stuff and,
Thanks.
Portfolio stuff and advice about, booking makeup artists and just all sorts of stuff. Just you're very prolific, just kind of being around and being in demand and just
thank you.
Doing good work. So I guess we'll get into all this, but I mean, it's been a long time kind of building that reputation, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been a long time. Like I said, I started makeup like almost 25 years ago behind the beauty counter, had a huge career in makeup, like corporate makeup or, retail makeup. I was a makeup artist behind the counter for a very long time, worked for some big brands out there like MAC and NARS and oh my gosh, YSL and Armani. And then I just got to this point where my career grew and grew and grew. I was no longer actually doing makeup. I was managing huge teams. I was managing department store business. At one point in my career, if you look at the map and you divide it from like Texas and then just go west all the way out to Hawaii and from like Calgary and Edmonton west, I had all that territory, including like Los Angeles and San Francisco. And I had a lot of people that worked under me, but it got to the point where I was like, I'm not even doing makeup anymore unless I just do it for fun. So, and then the very, very fun time in all of our lives happened, the big recession. And I was working for brands that, is luxury beauty. It was tough. I burnt out. I'm just giving you a long story short, burnt out and decided that I really needed to kind of get back to the roots of what made me happy. And that was makeup. So slowly started building a freelance career. And I decided to do that 7 years ago. It'll be 7 years this January that I decided to build a freelance career. And it started out like my first year. I was really well networked in Seattle with like just a lot of friends. And I grew up here. I grew up on Vashon Island. So I'm a Northwest lifer, even though I've traveled around and lived in a bunch of places. So I was lucky my first year that people just like handed out my card. My friends, I was like, I'll just hand out my card. One of my good friends was getting married. She couldn't afford a makeup artist and she is stunning. And I was like, listen, tell you what, you have a good photographer. I will do your wedding for you for free, whatever. Just give me your photos. And she did. And she actually ended up gathering a bunch of money from her friends. So it worked out really well. But, that first year I did like 16 weddings. The next year I did like 40 weddings. And after those first 2 years, it really just jumped. And I kept like just working on my outreach, like working on my website, working on my social media reach, networking with wedding planners and networking with photographers and anybody that, I could just like get people to mention my name. And that's how it worked. And I got to the point where I'm doing about 150 weddings a year. I co-own a styling agency with Kat St. John called Paper Dolls Northwest. And that's where all of our overflow referrals go into, and we help mentor other artists. So it's been cool. It's been a fun ride. Now we do the weekly podcast, Beauty Tips and Bullshit, and that's really fun too.
Yeah, that definitely got on my radar when you guys started that. And I said, this will be good. Another podcast to check out. So, and you guys have been, unlike a lot of them in the last couple of years, are successful and have kept doing that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot,
come and go.
Yeah.
No, we're lucky. Kat and I work so well together professionally. We're great friends. We work really well together. We complement and contrast each other's styles. So I think so well that it just works. It clicks. We both bring a lot to the show. We do a lot of writing. We have an incredible producer. We have a good fan base out there all out the world. world because it's fun seeing our stats come in and we're like, oh, we have these like listeners in the UK. It's like, it's really cool. Yeah, it's been fun.
Well, it's just so different nowadays, just how it's just so much easier to like get that out. I mean, it's just crazy. Just, it's like writing too. I mean, like my brother's a writer and I've always said like, it's just, you don't have to be, you can podcast and send that wherever, like it's, and the same with writing or whatever. It's just, it's interesting how far you can kind of get that out nowadays.
It's cool. It's really cool. It's, we have, like I said, we have pockets of listeners all over the place and it's fun seeing them slide little messages into our DMs and on our email and just, talking about beauty and, like, hey, I need help with like, doing a wing eyeliner on a hooded eye. And we're like, oh, we got you. And it's fun. And it is fascinating to see what you can do with a non-visual type media, and it's fun because you can also just record in your pajamas. Let's be honest.
It's funny. Yeah. And I actually worked with Kat for the first time this year as well, which was like, it was a really kind of weird video shoot. And I was like, I wish we would have met under different circumstances.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It was like,
they can't all be winners.
No, I was like, I just need a makeup artist. We're doing like dental interviews.
Yeah.
Like, I just need someone that's reliable that'll be there.
That's the craziness about corporate commercial though, isn't it? It's like I recently did what did I do? A true crime documentary for Netflix that was just nuts. And it's like, you never know what you're going to get booked when people like, reach out to you in your email and it can be like a dental commercial. And I know Kat does a lot with this company called Real Self Network. And it's like a plastic surgery clinic. And then it can just be like, some commercial for Alaska Airlines. It's the variety of our jobs.
Well, and I think you guys definitely do a lot more like higher end stuff. Like I'm finally getting to the point, right? Like I got to go to Vegas last week, which was very exciting.
Awesome. Congratulations.
To travel a lot for work. It's exciting, right?
Yeah.
You guys, I mean, that's like second nature now. I mean, you're usually always doing
some bigger names
stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's really cool. And it didn't used to be that way. Like I started out doing like, oh my gosh, I would do like, personal videos for business people. I mean, I still do that kind of stuff, but I'm talking like, unknown small businesses, like a yoga studio, like actually I did a Pilates studio like 5 years ago. I don't even know if they're still in business, but I did hair and makeup for that. And it's kind of interesting. But now when it comes across my plate, it usually has some substance to it. It's usually like a good brand, a recognizable brand that someone would like Netflix or HBO or those kind of things. That's good. It takes time to get there, but I always say like, head to the grindstone and you'll get there.
Yeah, it's funny as someone in video, we're very much like a 6 month and I mean your weddings, I mean your calendar is filled up next year. I mean have and how does that? I mean, obviously it's nice knowing that you just have this consistent work, but how is it being in that position, just kind of knowing that you have stuff set up just so far out?
It's good, I really am lucky, or I've worked my ass off. Let's just say that to get to where I'm at. I mean, it wasn't like wasn't luck. I even have that tattooed on me. It says "work hard" as a reminder. It's a great feeling to know. Like, so next summer I don't have a single Saturday open, and it's nice to be in demand for that. It's really an honor, and it's just when you do good, consistent work, and clients see that, and they send that out to their friends and to their family members who are getting married, it pays off. It's a good feeling. And what it allows for me at this point in my career is to like have a bit of a life. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have all of these Saturdays fixed, dialed in. Like I can block that week off. Actually, I'm taking almost 3 weeks off next year to go to Italy. So yeah, it's going to be exciting.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
All over the place. It's my boyfriend's 50th birthday. So we're starting in northern Italy, and he wants to, he is one of those supercar racing kind of fans. So he'll be up in the Italian Alps racing for a day or two while I will be doing not that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
How do you balance between, and I kind of between corporate and weddings, but how do you, do you take the things that you've learned doing these high-end corporate things and then bring them into your weddings, or do you take the wedding stuff, or how do you kind of balance the two? Because it is very similar, but it's also very different.
Yeah,
right?
No, that's a great question. So I would say like traditional weddings, like, you and I have worked on some weddings together, our local destination weddings, that work is very pretty. I'm the type of makeup artist who loves makeup. So I love having like the newest things in my kit, the pretty bells and whistles and all that kind of good stuff. And I feel like there's three facets to the kind of work that I do. Like that, like traditional weddings, like that's kind of its own thing. I have a separate kit for it. I have separate makeup I use for it. And then I have my corporate commercial, which is, it's very much kind of like, it's not as glitzy because you don't want certain things showing up on video. Glitter looks like dust, and highlighter looks like oily skin. And you're also looking at like the type of lights that are on set, and certain products won't hold up for that. So it's definitely has its own kit. Where the two kind of collide in my career is with my adventure elopements and corporate commercial work, because they both have to have that longevity to be able to withstand heat. My adventure elopement clients they're generally hiking like anywhere from like a mile to 10 miles, like fully, full hair and makeup. So that's where the two parts, that's what overlaps the most, and sort of similarities with the work. And it's pared down. Most people who get married up on top of Mount Rainier don't really want a whole bunch of highlighter and a winged liner. But my traditional, brides at like Semiahmoo or, anywhere else will go for it.
What kinds of brides do you find are attracted to your work and that you like to work with?
Generally, it's like, I always say I have a pretty good definition of my client at this point, and she's generally a woman who is educated and has built a really good career on her own. She's working really hard for her money. She makes great money, and she loves makeup. She might not be like that, like that Instagram heavy beat face that we see. Like that's definitely not my client. I can do that kind of work. It doesn't make my heart happy. I can, but my clients generally like, we can chat about makeup when they're in my chair, and that's what makes it really fun. And that's kind of, I get a lot of those two tech income households. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, and then for the elopements, I think that's just built its own niche on its own. It's just, my clients who are, see that I do that, and I'm willing to get up at 1 a.m. and I love what I do. So.
And you're pretty candid. I mean, you're pretty kind of straight shooter.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of no BS. I mean, and obviously, I think brides, anybody, but I mean, it's, if you're kind of stressed on your wedding, but you have to appreciate that kind of candor and just sort of like, what is it, bedside manner? I don't know, whatever that phrase is.
The hand holding.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely really direct with that sort of stuff. It's often that, on a wedding day, something is going to fall through the cracks. Something is not going to happen. And I always say that myself as a stylist and for other makeup artists out there, like we set the tone for the entire day. And we have a huge role in how that wedding is going to kick off, from timing to how they look to how they feel. I mean, we're basically like, we're the fluffers of the wedding. And so we get that bride super happy and the entire bridal party super happy. I have a great team that works with me, and things will fall through the cracks. Like, the catering might be late. Not blaming caterers, but something might slip, or something didn't show up, or somebody missed a flight or whatever. And I like to remind the bride that, in the bigger scheme of things, tomorrow, you're going to have had the best day today, and you're not even going to remember this. Like this one blip is not even going to matter.
Yeah, no, it really is. You really do have to set that atmosphere. When we came up for Carrie and Phil's wedding, and they're getting ready in this house, or it's like a townhouse kind of thing. But you guys are all in there, and you've been there all day, getting ready. You know everybody, kind of setting that. And then like Amy and I walk in, and it really is like, what kind of environment are we walking into? Yeah. But it needs to be that, right?
Yeah.
Because it could be very stressful.
It can be very stressful. It definitely can be. You have to run interference with like family, family dynamics, relationship conflict, that kind of thing. And that comes from like just years of being in this industry and understanding like how to see those things kind of already percolating and how to like, quash them. We had a situation, we had a situation up in Leavenworth last year, with a videographer who no-showed for a bride's wedding, just no-showed, just didn't go. And we were all scrambling around. Her bridesmaids didn't tell, the bridesmaids didn't tell the bride yet that it had happened. And they sidebarred with us, with myself and my assistant Jessica, and they were like, do you guys know anybody? And we all just kind of like jumped on, socials and put the word out there, and we got someone up there, and it was, someone who lived in Wenatchee who like shot like Subaru commercials, but it was great. It worked out, brilliantly. And once all of that was settled, then her maid of honor told her, hey, whatever company's not coming, but we have this other one coming. And then it was like, okay, cool. She didn't care. So she was like, I don't care. But if she, but then you have to think about, like, if she had been alerted to this, disaster at hand, then it could have been a very different situation. So it's just kind of knowing how to handle that stuff.
I hope my clients would feel a little more sad if I know.
Well, for sure.
We found somebody else.
Well, I think, going into that, you get what you pay for. I mean, there could be some of that to why they didn't show up. I was like, where'd you find this person? Yeah.
But I mean, because you have to be just with your expertise and stuff. Now, I mean, for the most part, you are surrounded with other vendors that are, for the most part,
really good.
And, people, and I feel like I'm slowly getting to that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, most of the time you got people around you that know their stuff.
Yeah. I'm really lucky at this point in my career that I work with some of like the very best in all aspects of wedding vendor categories. Photographer, like on my, questionnaire sheet when clients are looking to book with me, one of the things I ask is who their photographer is. And to me, that's really important because as I set the tone for the day, the photographer is a big part of carrying it out and delivering the final package. And I feel like with everything in life and with everything in careers, there's one end of it and there's another end of it. So sometimes if I see a photographer on there that I just, might have a different opinion about, I might not book that wedding. To be honest, because it's just going to be a headache.
But you're at the point now where you can make those.
Yeah.
decisions.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's venues I don't like to work. We won't get into naming names, but there's places I don't like to work at. There's there's vendors that, we all in this industry, not vendors, but there's just mostly it's it's places or, you can tell. Or if I get an inquiry that just says how much, I'm booked. Sorry.
Well, it is. No, it's hard because everyone, you're trying to hustle and work hard and you need to know when you're not.
I think the biggest thing is that you get to a point when you are strong in your career that what kind of work makes you happy and what kind of client makes you happy. I've had a couple situations this year where I've had brides who've wanted to book with me and I know we're not a good fit from the get-go. And I won't book them just because it doesn't make my day. I don't need to work on a wedding. I can work on weddings with amazing clients that make me happy and truly make me feel really good about what I do. And I make them feel amazing on their wedding day. But when you go into a situation where it's you're not going to click with that client, what's the point? I can go back to retail and get that same, crunchy feeling.
Well, and especially where you have corporate stuff to kind of fill it out.
Yeah.
You really are able to kind of choose
sure.
the people that you want to have. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes it nice. It definitely makes it nice.
Yeah. I'm still just happy to get invited to the dance sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you're on your way, Reed. Come on now.
So I was looking at your site before you came. You have a very interesting kind of career start, back in the day.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that and kind of this pre-law and everything? And kind of wherever you want to start, but I'm fascinated.
I went to the University of Washington for, my goal was to go to law school. So I started out my undergrad as in political science. And so I always love watching the news as of late. But that's what my career is. And I always had a strong passion for makeup. My grandmother was a very glamorous woman. Grew up with her taking me to the Fifth Avenue Theater. My grandma was the type of woman who always had her nails done, her hair set, until her final days. That woman was in the beauty parlor getting set up. And I came up as a young child through the 80s and saw these visions of just high glamour. And it was really just impressionable on me. But I also really loved the idea of law and academia. So I was at UW. I needed a job and I got a job at Nordstrom and they first put me in kids' clothes, which I was like, this is ridiculous. But I also was a young mom too. I was really young. I had my son when I was 22 years old. So I needed a job to get through school and to support myself and my son. So I did that. And then I begged the cosmetic department manager at downtown Seattle. I was like, I really want a job down here. And she straight up just told me, you have no makeup experience. I'm sorry, we're not going to hire you. But Bellevue is basically desperate for people if you're willing to commute to Bellevue. And I lived on Capitol Hill, but I went for it. And that's where I started. I started with a full-time job at the lawn comb counter at Bellevue Nordstrom. It's my home. And it's so fun to go in there to this day because my friend Janine, who still works there, I started my career with her and I shop from her now. And it's so fun to go in there and see her. So after like a million years of working, in this industry, it's neat to go back and be like, Janine will like introduce me to her friends. And I'm like, this is who trained me. But I started there, did a few years with Nordstrom, about 4 years in Seattle, ended up managing a huge Lancome counter at the downtown Seattle Nordstrom. And then from there, I just had this like travel bug. I really just wanted to, I grew up in the Northwest. I grew up on Vashon Island, lived on Capitol Hill for a long time. And I really just knew I needed to kind of get out and be in different areas. So I moved from Seattle to Phoenix. And then from Phoenix to Boston. I was out in Boston for a few years, back to Phoenix. Then I took a job. And this is all like along with my career path too. It was all, I started my career with Mac when I was out in Boston, transferred back to Scottsdale, Arizona as like a promotion. Ended up in San Francisco with Mac, went to Vegas to work with Mac. I managed the Mac Pro store and worked with Cirque du Soleil. So it's been a fun ride. And then that's when the recession hit. So I'm sure you can imagine Las Vegas during the recession, one of the hardest hit towns.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely one of the hardest places to be. And then I just decided it was time to come home. So I was away from Seattle for 10 years, came home, took a couple of years off from doing makeup. I was like so burnt out after the recession. I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't. Like all the joy of what I found in makeup and in retail was gone because it was just a dark time. People were losing their houses and I was working for companies who just didn't really want to understand that and just would pressure you to pressure your sales teams to keep selling. And it wasn't a win. If people don't have money, people are losing their houses, people are trying to figure out how to feed themselves. Like they're not going to buy a $38 lipstick. It's just not happening. So I took 2 weird years off and I worked for Expedia and paid search and I traveled a little bit more of the world. And that's when it kind of like had that time to sit back and realize I just need to freelance and build a freelance career. That's my long story short of my career in makeup. Was
it hard to give up the law and stuff? Kind of that
No, path? I really loved it. I think by the time when I was at UW and I was really getting into the meat and potatoes of my undergrad, which was all like mass media law and a lot of law and writing classes to prepare me to get ready for the LSAT and get ready to apply take the GRE and apply to law schools. My passion for makeup kind of really got tapped into. And by the time I graduated, I feel like the scales had tipped and I loved makeup more than I had loved the idea of becoming a lawyer. And I really wanted to see where that path would take me. And it took me on a great ride. It took me from behind the counter, becoming a makeup artist, becoming a counter manager, to becoming a director of national sales for the art of shaving. I switched from ladies cosmetics for a bit and I worked for men's grooming. And that was awesome. It was a great time to be in my career. And it pays off to this day working, with grooms and working with styling and understanding and being able to talk to them about their skincare and things like that. So it's kind of fun. Yeah.
No, it's always fascinating just the paths that we travel and kind of how it all, kind of pick up stuff along the way, kind of absorb those powers.
Yeah. No, it definitely is fascinating. I really love all the classes that I took. And I actually had one of my professors at UW was Ted Bundy's professor. Yeah. I'm kind of a bit of a murderino, for those who don't know what that is. It's the My Favorite Murder podcast. It's a good one.
What is this?
My Favorite Murder, the podcast.
No.
Oh my gosh. It's like true crime. If you're into true crime, it's a good thing. But yeah, my professor had Ted Bundy as a professor. So it was fascinating to hear him talk about it. Yeah, it is an interesting path though. My cousin is a lawyer and she tells me to this day that I have the better job. So I'll take that.
But I see kind of you could have been a gruff kind of.
I totally could have, yeah.
Courtroom kind of,
sure.
Whatever.
I think I could have held my own.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So you and Kat, and you kind of run this, your studio and education. Yeah. How important is it to kind of, educate and help out and help other people kind of grow and kind of pass on the knowledge that you have?
I think it's almost part of a responsibility that we have. I'm not going to be able to do makeup forever and I'm not going to want to do makeup forever. And I feel like, Kat and I both talked a lot about when we were both coming up as makeup artists. If I hadn't gone and worked for a department store, there was really little reputable education out there for me to have learned this industry. Kat didn't have any any help in basically learning it. She was very self-taught. She's an artist by nature. So so we both talked about like our frustrations with that. And for other artists, I feel like, I know it's not unique to the makeup artistry industry, but it can be really cruel out there. There's a lot of people that just don't want to help out other people. And that's just, it's unfortunate. There's so much work out there. There really is. It's crazy. So when we started Paper Dolls Northwest, our biggest thing was that we wanted to, of course, have an agency that we profited from. Like we made money and we were able to take care of like brides and have like good artists to take care of them. But we also wanted to like mentor other, women who wanted to have makeup artistry or, become a stylist as their career, but really just kind of felt lost along the way or not supported or, like, I don't know if you're in any of those like Facebook forums, but like there's makeup artist ones and like these young makeup artists will ask a question and just get like attacked, like for asking what people think is a dumb question. I'm like, how are they supposed to learn? Let people, answer it. We don't have to be like that. So that was really just elevating the positivity of helping people get there. So we feel it's a huge part of what we do. And so the artists that work with us, we mentor in the job and we mentor in the role of being a makeup artist, like all the ins and outs of it. And then we help with like business, all the business things that nobody teaches you. So we give a lot of that back.
It's hard. It's hard. We talk a lot on the podcast about, a lot of us are creatives or, somewhat, and you're not, no one teaches you how to run a business when you're trying to be an artist of any kind. It could be makeup or photography or anything, florist. It's really hard to balance kind of both of those things and be profitable.
It is. It's definitely hard. And we didn't want to start like, no disrespect to people that are out there doing it, but we didn't want to start like a workshop where people had to pay for things, because when you're starting out as a makeup artist, like you're not making any money, like you're barely making any money. Your rates are like dirt low, because you don't have the name out there to demand that sort of credibility. So, we just wanted to we're like, hey, we'll bring artists on that are good, that, gel with us as a brand. They will work for us. They will have a reduced rate. We have a commission. And in exchange for that, we will teach them everything that we can teach them. We help build their websites. We help get them business licensing. We help with teaching them how to do, we have 3 artists on our team now that are doing corporate commercial work that never would have thought of doing it because they didn't have the connections. And they didn't know what to put in their kit. And we think it's super important. So that's why we have that passion in it. And we don't make a ton of money. I'll tell you that. We're not like a standard agency.
But you have fun.
We pay the bills. Yeah. I feel like we're able to keep the roof on the house and do a few things, and it definitely doesn't pay my bills. I pay my own bills, but
what are some mistakes that you see, younger, makeup artists, or not even younger, but just people getting into it that obviously you've learned a lot over your time, but what do you find that, mistakes or things that you wish that people knew or didn't do, or, that you are kind of, and it could be people in your, that you're helping in your studio or otherwise, but what are some mistakes that you see people making?
I think the biggest mistake that people can tend to make is, just not asking questions. I feel like you have to be open to feedback, and you have to be open to questions and reaching out for help. And even if you are intimidated to be in one of the online groups like we were talking about, but maybe sending an email to an artist that you look up to. Like I've had people reach out to me and they're like, hey, other artists that are very green in their career and send me an email like, hey, can I buy you a coffee or can we hang out? And I'd love to pick your brain a little bit. And I'm always, if I can make the time for it, I'm always happy to do it. But I think just kind of going along and not asking questions and learning the hard way, it's not great for our industry if there's professionals who are bringing on makeup artists and they're not knowing what to do. So kind of learn to walk before you run, but ask a lot of questions along the way. I think that's a good part of it.
Yeah, I know what you mean with the forums and stuff. Like you were saying, there's like I guess it's probably worldwide videographer one, but people post stuff on there all the time, and it's like just criticize.
Oh, it's so rough. Yeah, I'm not on any. Here's the thing: I'm not in any online makeup artist groups. I won't do it. I used to be. They're just ugly. They really are. There's very little gold in that. It's just a lot of, rubble. Sounds like the water buffaloes like meeting on the Flintstones.
What is this?
Like old Flintstones commercials or cartoons, like the water buffalo meetings that Barney and Fred would go to. It's just like rubble, rubble, rubble. Yeah.
Where do you see yourself kind of trying to grow stuff now? I mean, obviously, we're out where we are, and you have the studios.
Sure.
How do you continue to kind of motivate and do new things and see new things?
I always love to innovate. Every year I set new goals for innovating. So the podcast is probably like the biggest focus on my plate at this point. Bringing on beauty brand owners for 2020. We have a lot of really fun interviews coming up. As for weddings, it's just come down to really only booking clients that will bring me joy. In the sense, thank you, Marie Kondo. But it's true, like really clicking with those clients. I would like to do probably, every year I switch it. Like when I started out, I did all weddings and I didn't do a lot of commercial work. And my goal was like 50-50, like 50% weddings, 50% commercial work. I'm well into that phase. As a matter, like the scales kind of got a little crazy where I was like, I had 140 weddings and I had like, probably 80 days of commercial. And if you add those two up, there's really not a lot of days left off for me. So that's been like pared back. But now I kind of want to do like 50% elopements and 50% traditional weddings because I really enjoy them. They get me in my car. They get me out into the mountains and onto the beaches, and it's kind of a goal, but continuing to grow the podcast and grow the agency and a few other fun things that might be under wraps.
Is it just to the point now where it is just kind of word of mouth and referrals for you, or do you focus a lot anymore on marketing, or is it just kind of you let the work speak and obviously you have the connections that you have?
Yes. So I book a year out for prime wedding Saturdays. So like Memorial Labor Day weekend, those book a year out. So 2020 is already filled for that. So I don't do any paid advertising at all. So that's kind of a nice thing. It's interesting. That's a great question. I used to really rely on wedding planners to help fill those dates, but I now book well before they do. So photographers are always a great resource because it's myself and photographers who book first, and venues, of course, how that goes. But it really is just maintaining. I have great reviews, maintaining content. We talked about content and creating content for your social channels, letting your work speak for yourself. And I think just being like true to what you are as a creative. I'm pretty true to who I am as a creative. And if you like me, then maybe you want me.
So are you kind of in that pecking order where you are getting booked before the planners now?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, it definitely makes it unique then where you have to look at things a lot differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it definitely does. So yeah, I usually get booked. So it's pretty much a tie between the venue and the photographer because there's a lot of photographers out there that people don't care like what their wedding date is. I had a bride last year who booked Jordan Voth, and she's like, whatever date he has open, that's the day we're getting married. And then they found a venue that, was aligned with that. So when you think about it, and your category, so videography is actually one of the top things I recommend. People are like, what are the 3 or 4 things that I absolutely need for my wedding day? And I'm like, obviously a photographer and me, hair and makeup, and then a videographer and a planner. I really feel like everybody at least needs a day of planner, but a videographer, I always say this. You'll like this. I always tell my clients this. I'm like, there are those things that you will never see on your wedding day. There are people that will be at your wedding that won't be there in a few years. And there are moments that photography just can't capture. And when you have a video capturing all of that and remembering that moment, it is priceless. And so I've upsold many of my clients to getting videography.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think I'm about third in the pecking order now for, it's a tie between the venue and the photographer. And then I usually come pretty quick right after because a lot of the photographers I have great relationships with know how quickly I book. So they tell their clients that too. So.
That's funny. Yeah. We, the closest I've ever had to the Jordan Voth is we had I guess it's, a second marriage for one of the parents of one of my brides, and they're going to get eloped. This just really casual thing this year, and they were like, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this day," and I was like, "Yeah." It was like a Friday, and then they were like, "Actually, we were going to do it that Saturday," and I said, "Oh, well, I can't. We're already booked." Okay, we'll do it that Friday.
That's awesome.
It was it was so dumb, but that was like
it's a nice feeling, though. It is. I've had it for myself too. It was like but mine usually comes as a package deal. It's like, okay, well, so and so photographer is open this day, and are you open this day? And I'm like, no, and they're like, okay, well, they're open this day. Are you open this day? I'm like, yeah, it works. So it's a good feeling when you get to that point in your career, and I don't take it for granted because it could go away, but. Yeah, I'm thankful for it.
Well, no, and just to be in the hierarchy of just kind of getting to set the tone of like if you are recommending like a planner or a videographer or whoever, just being able to control a little bit more of the day. Where like if I get asked like last minute, I'm like everything else is set in stone. Where you're kind of on the other side of that.
Definitely, no, it is nice. It's nice getting booked well before I don't know. The photo booth. No disrespect to the photo booth people. You just have lots of photo booths.
Yeah, if I ever can pass along a photography referral, I like that because they're like, well, where's this coming from? I'm like, it's coming from me, dude.
Yeah. They're good. Yeah, take my referral. Yeah.
What would be, your biggest advice for, someone wanting to start out? Like you said, you get people that email a lot, asking you for advice. What would be someone, whoever I'm starting the company, what would be your advice?
Any company or like a makeup artist starting out?
I would say you could do either or.
Oh, okay.
Because as an entrepreneur and as someone that's a self-created business,
I think I advocate becoming an entrepreneur to anybody who doesn't like a regular job. But my best bits of advice are always like my number one bit of advice is like let the fear of your empty calendar motivate you. That is like my best bit of advice is that you can't look at your empty calendar. And when you're starting out, of course, you're not going to have any clients, but be prepared to hit the ground running. Do your research, meet with other entrepreneurs, sign up for some really cool free entrepreneurial groups. There's a ton out there. There's like the Rising Tide Society. There's the F-Bomb Breakfast Club for Women. That's a Facebook group that's actually really cool. There's a few out there like mentorship. I listen to Jenna Kutcher, the Gold Digger podcast. She's fantastic. And these are all free things that you can listen to kind of like really get a taste of the mindset of what it really means to work for yourself. But for any creative also, thinking about, somebody's like, I have a passion of makeup. Get ready to understand that 50% of your job is going to be doing makeup and the other 50% is going to be all business. It's going to be, marketing and billing and invoicing and online marketing and taxes and licenses and understanding all of that sort of part of it. So to be really prepared that it's not just going to be like, I'm going to go fill my kit with a bunch of pretty lip glosses and get some ladies down the street to hire me. Then what? You have to move from there. So I think the calendar, definitely letting that be your big motivator and not your fear that holds you back is my best advice.
That's funny. Yeah, I always said, like the first year when I quit, like Rosie and I would go on like a lot of walks, a lot of time, all day, every day, because you're just like,
you got time.
Or like I finally started going into Dorothy School this year to volunteer. Where I used to go in like a lot. Yeah. And now like I went in like 2 weeks ago. It was the first time I could make it in. So, but I'm like, I tell her, it's not because I don't want to. It's because, you're filling if you can fill it with money versus or a gig. But no, I like that empty calendar. That's funny.
It should motivate you. And that's what I mentor a couple of artists every single year. And I do like a full year of mentoring with them. And that's one of my Anne 101 things is that you're going to look at your calendar and it's going to be empty a month out from now. It's going to scare the shit out of you. And don't let it have that motivate you. Like every single day, get up and have like 3 to 4 things that you're going to do. Like I'm going to send out this many emails. I'm going to send out, set up this many, social posts and everything that you can do and prepare yourself so that in case you do get a job the next day, all of that stuff is done ahead of time.
Yeah, it's crazy. I see a lot, I keep an eye on like a lot of different, businesses, a lot of videographer, keep my eye. And you see a lot of like people and it's like, dude, you haven't like posted in 6
Yeah.
months, or you haven't, and you're like, what are you?
Yeah, what are you doing?
I don't know. And not that
Yeah.
social media is the be all end all, but I mean,
Well, it is a big part of our careers as creatives. I mean, I have on my form that when people first inquire, it says, who can I thank for this referral? And 32% of my business comes off Instagram. And it just says like, they'll put like Instagram with a smiley face. Or it's like whoever referred them, which is really cool that they fill that out. But it's, it's huge. Instagram's huge. Pinterest is huge. Facebook is huge. And if you're not busy, there's no reason that you shouldn't be working on those things on a daily basis, because that is your online portfolio. We're not olden days when we walked around, did go-sees, show up with your like book of your work and like knock on the door. Hi, come and hire me. It doesn't work like that.
No, but also, I mean, I know you said you recommend self-employment for people, but I mean, it's not for everybody.
No,
I mean,
it's definitely not.
And it's interesting, even just the, people I've worked with over the years of, other videographers, and like, it's definitely not for everybody that even works with me of having to like build your own calendar and kind of set your own schedule and keep busy. And,
It's definitely not for everybody. And as your career gets busy, it's kind of the flip side. I had a huge corporate job and I work way more now than I did before, because I'm at this point where I'm just super busy. And there's days where I'm just like, oh my God, I don't want to work tomorrow. But when you're freelance, you just don't get that opportunity, like you're sick, like you have to push through. And, so there's those things to think about. You can't just call out of your job when you're a freelance person, or you won't be a freelance, creative for much longer.
No, and it's the same with you, where like, you got to be there, wedding days, or you got to show up. And like, I see that a lot where, some days I might have, it's like an hour, I got to get this video out.
Yeah.
And if you're not feeling like inspired or whatever, like that doesn't exist at that time, right? Or like you got to show up.
You got to show up to the wedding.
Be ready to go.
Yeah.
And I see people, I just didn't feel like whatever.
It doesn't
today.
work. Yeah.
And you're like,
we don't have that luxury. Yeah. We just don't. You have to push through it. I've worked many weddings, like really sick, unfortunately, over many, many years, but, and it's just the way it is. You get through it, then you go home and you pass out and you're like, thank God that's over. Yeah. It's tough. That's that, there's downfalls to it, but overall it's an incredible, it's just, I wouldn't have my life any other way. I couldn't go back to it. I couldn't go back to working in retail. I'd die.
No. Yeah. Yesterday was, I think I was looking, it was like 5 years since I gave my notice.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
So, but it's, it would be very, very challenging to go back.
Yeah, for sure. It is. Yeah. You get used to certain things. Yeah. It's kind of nice. Flexibility.
Recording in pajamas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. That was nice.
Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on before we let you go today? I think it's been a very insightful chat.
Well, thank you. No, I think that's, it. You can listen to our podcast at Beauty Tips and Bullshit, which we're everywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're a makeup enthusiast, go check it out.
And it's you and Kat talking.
It's Kat St. John and myself. Yeah, we talk about beauty reviews, beauty news. It's really fun. We do weekly giveaways. It's a good show. We always have guests on. Yeah, it's for those who love makeup. Come hang out with us.
I have nothing to add to that, so I don't know if I will. But I do think it's great. I mean, not that you guys need any more help getting your name out, but it's nice to just have,
it's fun.
It's like a weekly reminder, like we're here and we're doing all this fun stuff, so.
Well, you know what? We love doing it because it is, we vent a little bit on that show. We talk about behind the scenes stories that, you too, like, you and I have like in person, like we'll share our stories about, maybe tough jobs and tough clients. And on the show, we can kind of riff a little bit about it without naming names. But it's fun. It's a great way for us to vent and relax and, remember at the heart of all of this, like we are creatives and that's why we do this. And so that's why we have the show.
But I think it's good. I think it's good to be real. I mean, people, I think, the book Us and, like, who people are.
Yeah.
I do. And that was my whole reason for starting the podcast is you should really know who your wedding vendors are
100%.
and who their personalities are.
Yeah.
And if you don't like them, then that's.
Yeah. And, going back to talking about like getting those emails from brides and like knowing that we are not a good fit, that's doing such a service to everybody because it is so important that you have a great click with all of your vendors. And that's why I have like issues with like preferred lists when vendor, like, planners will have like, I only refer these 5 people. It's like, well, maybe those 5 people aren't, and including I've asked to be on a preferred list. And I'm like, well, that's nice and all, but you can't just put me on your preferred list. Like have some other people in that category. Give your people choices because we're all different at the end of the day. So
no, I think it's so important. And we're just not like for everybody. And like I tell people that even too with like our stuff, like
I'm not for everybody.
And I post dumb stuff on my Instagram all the time. So people know that like, I'm just,
this is me.
we're just dumb, whatever. But I don't want it to be, you don't want it to be a surprise.
Yeah, totally. I agree 100%. I think it's super smart. Yeah.
It's so, I can't remember who was on the podcast when we were talking that, just the relationships that people have with their wedding vendors, no matter what type of vendor, is so different than any other service industry. Like I was booking this last minute wedding in September, and like he's texting me like 10 o'clock at night, hey, just got home, trying to get, we're trying to get this going. And like you would never be like texting your plumber like at 10 o'clock at night.
No, you wouldn't.
Like, or like a lot of other service people. But I'm sure like you get I get calls all the time.
I get texts all the time. I'm in Sephora. What do you think? This red or this red? And it has nothing to do with their wedding. We just, we're all like a bunch of like beauty freaks at this point. When I've really bonded with a client, every day my phone will probably have like, oh, what do you think of this, this rosy whatever? And I'm like, oh, get that one. It's fun. I like it. It's a great relationship to have.
Yeah, but it's just very unique. I think to just kind of the industry and how, you spend, it's important time that you spend with people.
Yeah, it is.
It's interesting.
It's a great time to bond. It's a good bonding session with people. So
obviously, we talked about the podcast. If anyone wants to check out your website, portfolio, everything else, just plug all your
it's you can look at all of my work online, AnneTimss.com, 1 M, 2 S's, and my Instagram is Miss Timms Makeup Artist, and I have a Facebook page for Anne Timms Makeup and Hair.
And then Paper Dolls Northwest.
Paper Dolls Northwest is our agency. Yes. If you have reached out to me and I can't help you, go to Paper Dolls Northwest. We have amazing artists that are just so good that work with us. We're a big team. So yeah, they do a great job.
But it just, because it's obviously if you can't help them, you want to make sure there is someone trustworthy.
Yeah. We want ideally, like, when it comes to the wedding industry, I think all of us who have our heart in it want people to have the best experience for their wedding, even if we can't be a part of it. We want to refer them the best people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if it's not us.
Yes.
Perfect. This has been so good. Thank you so much for coming in. I'm so glad we could kind of finally get this rolling. We've talked about it for a while, so it's good. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. If you're like Anne and you're interested in coming on the podcast, you can go to www.bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest. And that's a nice, easy questionnaire to fill out if I don't know you and kind of get you in the system so we can start vetting and checking it out, because we do vet very thoroughly.
Good.
The people that come on the podcast. Thank you so much again. This has been another episode. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.
Thanks.